Greetings and a belated Happy New Year to you. Welcome to the first H3VR Devlog of 2020. So what are we going to do this week? Well, we are going to be doing a sort of combined year-end roundup for stuff we sort of got in and working in 2019, paired with a roadmap discussion, sort of what happened with a given system or segment of content in the game, and what is to come. What are the upcoming priorities? We're going to be going over things in several different sections. We're going to be going over weapon features, AI features and content, specific game modes like Take and Hold and Meat Fortress, our general sort of guns and stuff, sort of content that is virtual objects, and the sort of eat your broccoli kind of things that need to happen with the game, UI and UX stuff that isn't terribly forward-facing a lot of the times and is super tedious and difficult to do, but needs doing anyway. So let's jump right into it. Weapon features. So obviously this past year we scratched almost everything off the list in terms of really commonly requested attachments and features for firearms that folks had wanted. Muzzle brakes, bayonets, attachable shotguns, attachable grenade launchers, whole bunch of ridiculous attachments. I know you didn't ask for a lot of those, but we felt like doing them anyway. So what is left to do that? Well, the big thing that has been an absolute thorn in my side, I've already tried to code it better twice, is bipods. Not just in terms of making the sort of built-in bipod system and its filtering, which allows you to shoot at super long range better, but also the ability to actually have a Picatinny attach bipod of some kind, so that we're not restricted to having bipods just on a very small number of rifles that I have manually configured, but that we have some sort of generic, not unlike how the bayonet from the Enfield affixes and the Mosin affix to the muzzle and can be put on nearly anything. So I think I have another approach I want to try that actually is based more off of the way, mathematically, the way the virtual stock works. So I'm going to be giving that a try at some point later this year. So cross fingers on that. But that's really the primary weapon feature I have left to really try that is in the overlap of really commonly requested, and I don't have to break half the game to make it happen. So that's going in. As for AI features and content, the SO6 made some absolutely huge advances this past year. They learned how to handle their weapons better. They learned how to use cover. They learned how to throw grenades, which I know all of you really love. And they learned how to fight in melee better. But there's still a couple places that they are lacking. One category of things I'll talk about in a bit when I talk about Meat Fortress, but the more specific one is I want to teach them how to utilize and prioritize objects a little better. At the moment, if they only ever have to make decisions between one or two weapons, like am I in a situation where I need to pull out my knife or not, or should I just hold my rifle, they're good at that. But at the moment, especially because they can carry two objects on their back, there are situations where they might pick up extra weaponry or even be switching between engaging a short range versus a long range target. And they may have two firearms, and at the moment they don't really prioritize necessarily the best weapon for the context that they're in. So I'd like to make them be a little bit smarter about that. Sort of just have some internal prioritization checks for weapon switching, which should also enable me to configure some other cool behaviors. So if I want a SOSIG that like always has two pistols and they actually have them two out, which I know is very Hollywoody. Like right now they fight the way is sensible, which is put one on the waist, only hold one out. But I'd like to be able to make their object usage a bit more varied. There's some stuff related to Meat Fortress I'd like to make better that is very much rooted in the AI. Right now in the Meat Fortress scene, even though that was added this year, it was super fun, there's only one play mode in there that isn't even very TF2-y, it's just team deathmatch. And the reason for that is that to be able to support any more complex styles of play, the bots need to be able to play that game. They need to have some sort of representation of what they should be doing at certain moments and then react to changes in the sort of macro game state. And I tried to write that very quickly and very crudely, but I had already spent almost all of my time pre-Meat Fortress release on the level and the SO6s and all of the weaponry, and I ran out of AI coding time basically. So I want to take another approach that's a little more deterministic. Almost think of it like a scene or team manager that actually has some sort of abstracted notion of the play field for doing something like, say, a capture point mode. And as bots spawn, it goes, okay, you're an NG, you should go here. You're a pyro, you should go there. So that there should be a lot more class-specific play, and they should react more sort of as a simulated team. It's something I wanted to do from the get-go, and I just recently looked back at the code I had tried to write to do it, and was like, wow, I was super tired because this is super terrible. So that's getting a scratch rewrite. In terms of other Meat Fortress stuff, there's still a few things on the list that I need to scratch off that I know I owe you folks. Got to get a little more spy tech in there for the player, so make it so that you can cloak and make it and give you a, I'm going to call it an H3 appropriate rendition of the Sapper, which is going to be super useful because the other thing that's going to be coming later is NG SOSIGs are going to deploy a very H3 specific version of a mini turret, or a Meat Fortress Turburgert. It's absolutely adorable. You're going to love it. So, and we're going to have a couple more creations over the first half of the year from the community creators. Been making some beautiful stuff for H3 Pi Savvy that I'm sure you'll enjoy when that shows up too. As for other game modes, Taken Hold, obviously, I know plenty of you want to hear more about what is going to be changing or evolving with that mode. I will split this up into sort of 3 areas of concern. The first area of concern relates to, I'm going to do at some point in the first, probably February realistically, I'm going to do a scoreboard reset because a bunch of the starting options are going to be changing or changing what they mean. I'm going to be condensing a few of the options that affect scoring just to sort of shrink the permutation space for the scoreboard because it's going to be growing in other ways. I might pluck out one of the health options, we'll see. And I'm going to be taking out a couple of the characters and replacing them with more interesting renditions of those characters, as well as adding new ones. So one of the things that in addition to all of the SOSIG behavior this year that was added, I put in new types of SOSA guns, but didn't really use them a ton. So there's a full set of mid-century SOSA guns, a full set of Wild West SOSA guns, and I have outfits for the SOSIGs as well for those eras. So we're finally going to get a take and hold character that's built around those. So there's going to be a sort of a mid-century, like World War II kind of character, and a Wild West character. And so when you pick them in Take and Hold, your weapon set will be era constrained, and the SOSIGs that you're fighting will be era constrained as well. So it will actually feel balanced. So it's not like you're going to be like, you know, trying to desperately load a single action revolver while fighting an AA-12 SOSIG in full body armor. So it should be appropriate, and for those of you who want that kind of challenge and play, but with, you know, an older set of H3's weapons, which I personally really enjoy, that will finally be arriving. The second area of concern for Take and Hold, it relates to sort of game balance and making one of the modes endless, which when I had added that in this past year, I really sort of rushed it because I was focused on other things. And endless right now kind of stinks because what happens is the difficulty goes like this and then it just plateaus. Whereas what I would actually like to do is make it so that I might rename it instead of endless to something like marathon. So still have it have a finite end, but make the likelihood of you reaching that finite end way, way, way less likely. So at the moment, and I'd love to know what you folks think, I'm thinking about making it so that standard will remain unchanged, but marathon will be something like a 15 hold sequence that has a little bit more gradual of difficulty at the beginning to allow you to sort of get going with your equipment, and then sort of hits where 5 would end at closer to 6 or 7, and then goes much, much, much steeper in terms of difficulty, volumes of enemies, complexity of the challenge, including new targets. Let me know what you think about that. I honestly, with the original take and hold design, I never expected there to be such a large percentage of the player base that can just slap it around. So I guess I gotta make it harder for some of you. And then the sort of third area of concern, obviously, is, and I've promised this for a while, is that this year Take and Hold will get a second level to play in. It's going to be more outdoor oriented, so it's going to have a lot of mid and long range engagement present that will make you really use a different side of the arsenal. And obviously we'll be less focused on spraying targets down inside of 15 to 20 meters and be a lot more oriented around taking quality shots at 50 out to like 150 meters. So I've already got plans for that, sketches in my sketchbook, but I'll tease what that's going to look like a little later in the year. I'm really excited about it. At the beginning, I mentioned that there's a bunch of stuff that needs working on that falls into the category of like eating your broccoli. And this is stuff that is very much on the list of what is needed for H3 to eventually be able to reach a sort of 1.0 status where we leave early access. Sort of thing. And that's all. It's some of the things that you basically expect out of, you know, refined, intentionally designed software. And so that is like a tutorial experience that pops up and is one click away right there in the main menu for new users. Making the main menu scene a little more clear in terms of like, here is the content that is sandbox, here is the content that is structured games, you should start here, here's a really, you know, these modes are the advanced game modes, sort of thing. And going back and doing the really sort of like futzy, painstaking work to bring the UI language of a lot of the game under a single umbrella. So making it so that the item spawner, the ammo panel, the options panel, and the bot spawners all have the same sort of UI treatment to them. Buttons work the same, they're scaled roughly the same, they've got the same typeface, and sort of adding a bunch of UX features that are much needed to them. Like the ammo panel being able to automatically select ammo for what you're holding, to the item spawner having like the ability to search for things in tags and favorite things, and having a section that's like newly added on it, and things like that. A random button has been asked for a while. So those are all things that are divergent enough from how the item spawner currently works that it really does need a new treatment. And of course, because a lot of that eating my broccoli kind of work needs to get done, especially in the first half of this year, there's going to be periods of time where I'm not going to really have an exciting new feature to show off or something like that. So as always, I have begun the staging process of getting them sort of ready to be able to work on 1 to 2 a week or something like that. More firearms, as always, being added, especially trying to fill in some of the categories, both from a functionality standpoint, like shotguns and such, bolt actions, lever actions, but also eras of firearm that are interesting to me and that I want to fill out a little bit more. So you should expect that as always, and just remember that in those moments where in a given week when I mainly have a firearm or something to show you, it's because I had to just do a bunch of boring stuff that isn't even worth showing off. So I very much use that type of content to buy myself time to work on other stuff, and there's going to be a whole bunch of that this year. So that should give you a pretty broad overview of what I want to tackle this year. Should let you know, though, that it is going to start off a little bit slow. I've actually been sick for almost the entire holiday break. It's been back-to-back lung infections, which has been exhausting. So under the recommendation of many of you and my friends and family, I'm going to be playing it real low-key for the rest of January. Just trying to recover and give myself some time to just, you know, mentally and psychologically prepare for the new year. And so I'm going to be largely playing with my Warhammer addiction, which is clearly evident here. So I'm going to be painting little dudes and trying not to sit at this computer all the time. But I'm still going to have a patch for you folks next week that will fix a bunch of the little things that were busted from Meat Miss, as well as throw in one new toy that I have been excited to get in, that I've been having fun playing with. So yeah, so I hope you folks are all excited about what's to come. There are a few surprises, of course, that I have not revealed to you at all, because they'll be way much more fun to spring on you. But otherwise, I hope, you know, we're getting finally into the phase of the game that's about not just sprawling more, but about polishing what's there, finishing what needs to be finished, tuning, and it's in certain ways it's less exciting for me. I like to run off and just like make a new system and see what happens, but it's about time I managed to actually cross some larger things off the list and be able to call them done. Anywho, I hope you all have a wonderful week, and I'll see you all soon. Peace.